But the most valuable impact of that coaching relationship, one I still have today, 7+ years later, was the impact on me, confronting and overcome my limiting beliefs, my relationship with money, my fears, my lack of confidence. And it was so impactful that it felt like the next evolution of my coaching was to let go of the nutrition focus aspect, double down on the mindset aspect, get my credential in hypnotherapy, and then surround myself with the top hypnotherapists in the world to be a sponge and learn from them. And here we are all these years later. I haven't looked back since.
That's awesome.
Welcome to The Growth Mindset, the podcast for ambitious real estate and mortgage professionals. Hosted by Adam Crosley and Riddle, this show dives into entrepreneurial strategies, sales techniques, and mindset hacks designed to fuel your career growth. Get ready to learn from top producers, gain actionable insights, and start your journey towards success. Here's your hosts, Adam and Rick.
All right, buongiorno, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Growth Mindset Podcast. I am Riddle with my co-host,
Adam Crosley.
All right, I'm really excited today, Adam. We have a special guest. We're actually just talking in the green room a little bit. He's found us, which is really kind of exciting. It means we're doing something right, I guess. And found out two things. One, he's from the Maryland area, so he's a Redskins fan or a Commanders fan. And but now lives in my area in Tampa. So after this, maybe have to get a beer. And he also sounds like an avid golfer, which we'll dig into him. So maybe he'll give us some tips along the way. But he actually reached out and talked about how real estate agents are using hypnosis to scale their impact and income, and that was really, really exciting. So welcome, Paul Salter. So welcome to the Growth Mindset Podcast.
Yeah, Rick, Adam, it's a pleasure to be here.
I don't even know where to begin. I don't know if you're going to put us under hypnosis. That would be kind of fun. But tell me.
Here's a fun fact for you, though, Rick. You've already been in hypnosis multiple times per day.
Look at that. All right.
Okay. Talk to me about that, Paul.
Yeah. So hypnosis it's got this aura, mainly this negative stigma to it, that it's brainwashing, it's mind control. It's none of those things. It's not magic. I don't extract your deepest, darkest secrets. Hypnosis is actually a natural state of mind that you, Adam, myself, all of us listening have been in multiple times per day. It's literally just a word to describe the predominant brain wave you and I are producing at any given moment. So right now we're having an engaged conversation. We're producing primarily what are known as beta brain waves. We can all relate to that feeling after a long day of work. We go take a hot shower. We start to relax. We start to daydream. Well, suddenly we're starting to shift into more of alpha brainwave production. If we get too relaxed, well, then we fall asleep, and that's delta brainwave. So there's a sweet spot in between that slight relaxation and that deep sleep where we produce theta brainwaves, and that's that hypnotic sweet spot. It's the same state of mind all of us experience the moment we transition from sleeping to waking, when we're caught up in a good book, our favorite TV show, or when we're deeply immersed in a project at work or on the golf course.
Nice. So theta, that's, and I'm just totally talking off the cuff here. I don't know that much about it, but theta, that's like where the brain is the most malleable, right? Like when most impressionable and because I've heard like if you're like laying in bed, like as you're drifting asleep, you can kind of think about where your dreams are and where your goals are and what success means to you. And that's a great way to kind of reprogram your brain so that way you start thinking about that, as you go to sleep. So talk to me a little bit about the science behind that. I mean, we love having this growth mindset and this success and, drive mindset. And how can we kind of, knowing that, kind of reprogram our own brains?
Well, you're spot on, first of all, so kudos to you. Outstandingly said. Yeah, that theta brainwave state is where we get to capitalize on what is known as neuroplasticity. And that is really our brain's ability to rewire, build new neural pathways. Neural pathways in this sense, the analogy I like to use is, imagine you have a terrible habit of procrastination or scrolling on your phone. And I'm speaking for myself and all of us in some way, shape, or form here. But if we imagine this neural pathway like an 8-lane highway, it's so easy to travel. Well, we weren't always scrolling on our phone. Originally, that was a dirt road, and we were just traversing this dirt road every single day. Suddenly, a path emerged, and then we rode it so much that it became a single-lane road. And all unsaid is done. Now we've got this 8-lane highway. It's so easy to do these patterns, these habitual behaviors. Neuroplasticity also states that we can choose to set up some orange detour cones, and we can get off that highway. We can again begin to blaze a new trail. It'll start as a rocky terrain that we have to traverse, getting off of that highway, charting uncharted territory. But the more that we begin to go down that path, suddenly another clearing emerges. Suddenly it's a paved road. And now we have a new highway that's easier to travel. And that's literally the process of behavior change and habit formation, capitalizing on our brain's ability to create new pathways, to think different, feel different, believe different, and of course, behave different.
So it's kind of like, as I'm sitting here thinking, right? It's like, if you're equating it to the gym, right? Which I like to equate things to the gym because I'm trying to get back to the gym. It's really hard, right, in the beginning because it's unfamiliar territory and everything hurts, and you don't have a pattern, you don't have a consistency. You're paving that new path down that roadway, right? You're knocking down trees to create a road, but over time, what they say, 28 days to create a habit, then it's just second nature, right? Then it just becomes, and that's good and bad, right? But if you have a bad behavior, you become stuck in the norm, right? And it's hard so I'm thinking, like, as you're building this path, and it's really hard to blaze through, and then it's like you out of the dirt road, and now it's a paved road, and it's a second lane and a third lane. That's all good, but then you get kind of stuck, right? Because you're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, and you're not going to get different results until you create a new road. Is that kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most people, and this isn't any individual's fault, it's just society, we start doing something different, and there's this preconceived notion that different means bad, hard, difficult, challenging. Different on its own is just a neutral. It's just new. It's novel. It's different. Different doesn't have to be bad. Sure, if we run with the gym metaphor, of course, your muscles are sore and you might ache. So that is definitely uncomfortable. But different just is. And the reason I bring this reframe into the conversation is we can then open up the opportunity to begin to accept that beginning to build a new pattern of thinking, feeling, and believing is going to be different. And different is not bad. It allows us to begin to lean into different more and even potentially see different as exciting, opportunistic, because we know that we've determined this different way of thinking or behaving is going to bring us the result that we desire.
It's funny. We talk a lot about, a good plan executed is better than a great plan never executed, right? And I think about, Adam runs our coaching through our Crown coaching division, coaches many loan officers. He's a top producer himself. And he always says, my business is boring, right? I just do the same thing. I do the heavy lifting over and over and over and over again. And I think that a lot of people get kind of stuck in that path. And like you said, they're afraid, or they're not, like, we're different is different. Like you said, it's not good, bad, easy, or hard. It's just different. And I think what happens, a lot of people, especially, we're recording this 2 days before New Year's, and it'll probably be aired sometime in January, right? And we all go in with a goal, right? And a plan. And hey, this year's going to be different, right? I'm going to do this, whether it's a personal goal, a business goal, a monetary goal, whatever it is, but we never get off that road, right? And because we're stuck in that 8-lane highway, right? And kind of, you got to, if you're going to expect different results, right? Like, you got to go different.
Wow. And to bring up something, I love what you shared about Adam too. Like, Adam has clearly cultivated discipline as a superpower, but you're right. Success is built on the same boring principles repeatedly executed over and over. And the reason, and there's many reasons, but one predominant reason so many people fail to reach their potential is they fall victim to that shiny object syndrome. They get into a groove. Oh, this is boring. I did the same 5 steps yesterday, the last 5 months. I want something different. So they continue to fall victim to this pattern of starting something new. I'm bored. They hop over here. We see it in weight loss culture. The term is usually called diet hopping. We see it in serial dating creators and people struggling to find committed relationships. And we see it in entrepreneurship all the time. We get bored. There's not a stimulus per se. It's not sexy, exciting. There's no dopamine hit. So then we go try something else. But you two and I all know when we can outlast the discomfort, the boredom, and outlast our competition, that's when we really begin to separate ourselves from everybody else.
Absolutely.
That's right. We call it half-built bridges. You know, like you have this idea and it works, right? And it's a well-made plan, and I know that there's gold on the other side of this river, and you get all the way across, and you're like, oh wait, there's more gold over here. So let me start a bridge over here, and we never get to the gold because we never complete the
finish
bridge.
The project.
So Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, so how did you? Obviously, you must have taken psychology classes. Like, talk to me. Tell us a little about your story and your history.
Yes. So I am a mindset and performance coach, and as well as a credentialed hypnotherapist. I have been coaching, it'll almost be 17 years at the turn of the calendar. So by the time this episode goes live. However, my coaching journey started as a sports dietitian. Very early on, I worked closely with collegiate, professional, and Olympic athletes, helping them to maximize their performance, body composition, and recovery. Eventually, I shifted more into the focus of sustainable weight loss. And, there is everybody thinks we have a weight loss problem. That's completely false. There's a weight maintenance problem. People can lose weight left and right. The challenge is keeping it off. So I shifted my coaching into really helping people understand you need to first lose the weight from the inside and then out, because you got to address the emotional and the psychological barriers. Here's where my journey gets a bit interesting. About 10 years later, I still have my coaching practice. I've got a thriving community dedicated to helping women achieve sustainable weight loss. But I've got this irrepressible passion for the game of poker. And it was kind of this now or never moment. Like, am I ever going to do this, or am I going to talk about doing it? So I went all in on playing poker. Still had my coaching business, but I really put a lot of time, energy, and resources into poker. And about 6 months in, I felt like I was out studying, out working everybody. I had the coaches, still felt like I was lighting money on fire. Not quite ready to hang it up yet. I hired a mindset coach. She happened to be a hypnotherapist. This is my first introduction to hypnosis. And in a very short amount of time, I suddenly found myself playing for significantly more money than I ever imagined, earning significantly more money. But the most valuable impact of that coaching relationship, one I still have today, 7+ years later, was the impact on me, confronting and overcome my limiting beliefs, my relationship with money, my fears, my lack of confidence. And it was so impactful that it felt like the next evolution of my coaching was to let go of the nutrition focus aspect, double down on the mindset aspect, get my credential in hypnotherapy, and then surround myself with the top hypnotherapists in the world to be a sponge and learn from them. And here we are all these years later. I haven't looked back since.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Things.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy playing poker. I play a decent amount of poker as well. So
you guys are going to be buddies, especially down
at yeah.
I'll see you at TGT at 6:00. There's a tournament. So that's pretty cool. So it also, do you know the book Inner Excellence?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is
AJ Brown's reading it?
AJ Brown, right? And because of that, it became like that guy. I think his name is Jim Murphy. He literally had this book out for 15 years, probably did okay, and all of a sudden it sold like 1 million copies last year. I ended up buying it, and I ended up buying on audio as well. So I bought it twice. But it talks about it's pretty interesting though, because if you take away the I mean, it's geared towards athletes, but I mean, it's so relatable to limiting belief. Like when you were talking about, like, people have limiting beliefs, right? Like they have their own personal limiting beliefs, but it also talks about doing it for the right reasons, right? Like that a lot of times athletes do it for the money, the glory, the trophy, and then they get there and they're unfulfilled, right? And it talks about really you have to do it for like yourself, right? And so I think about it when you're kind of talking about your journey, like it's first thing kind of got into my head, like the weight loss, people are losing weight or doing those short-term things, but not doing it maybe for the right reasons. right? That the internal excellent reasons. And because of that, they don't sustain that. And we talk about that a lot on our podcast too, is like, obviously in sales and mortgages, the scorecard is your W-2 at the end of the year, right? The money or the number of loans, right? But if you're only chasing the dollar and only chasing then the market's going to dictate your success, right? Where if you create long sustaining habits, right? Adam and I were actually talking before this call, the number of loan officers that had great years in 2004, 2006, 2007, and then got out of the business. And then we talked to them. They're like, well, I got out of business because everyone did. We're like, no. Adam got into business.
That's when I started, was 2008. Everybody was leaving.
I never got out, right? And then are we in that cycle again, right? It's like, great years in 2020 and 2021, really hard years in 2022, 2023. And you hear people like, well, it was hard for everybody. I'm like, it was hard for everybody, but people that didn't let the market dictate their successes still had really successful years, and I think about what you're kind of saying in that frame up. It's like you can make a difference no matter what the external factor is.
You bring up a good point too. Like what I'm hearing from you is just this attachment of our self-esteem or self-worth to results. And especially in an industry where you get to only eat what it is you hunt and kill, like it's so motivating to put the head down and grind to close as many deals and cases as possible. Yet if at the end of the day, you judge your self-worth or how good of a person you are by the number of deals closed or the amount of money that's on your W-2 at the end of the year, it creates a perpetual cycle of lack of fulfillment. And you're probably a bear to be with around the time of year you haven't had a good quarter, a good month, whatever it is. And that affects your spouse, your children, your coworkers, and so on and so forth. So learning to healthily detach your self-worth and esteem from your results is a necessary superpower for an entrepreneur, a loan officer, a real estate agent who's truly going to withstand the inevitable fluctuations in the market and last the entire duration of their career.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? Because it's like, especially in sales, right? You've heard like you're only as good as your last deal, and I'm sure with athletes and especially you, which I'd like to get a little bit about. I'm interested in the golf aspect, right? Because golf is the only, well, probably not the only, but it's all on you, right? And it's a level playing field. And at the end of the day, you're teeing off at the same distance as 72 other competitors and in the same conditions at the same time, like it's not like I was thinking about other sports, like tennis is a true one-on-one sport, but you are playing against somebody, and here you're playing against, the course itself or against yourself, really against, bettering yourself. So that's an interesting, I never thought about golf and even sales, are very, very closely, could be closely related. So
if you have a bad hole or something else like that, I mean, it can get in and you have to, I'm sure, reset yourself on every stroke, right? Like, and it's sometimes, and find that levelness. And it's a really neat thing to think about, to use, hypnosis and mindset in golf. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, a bad front nine is the same as a bad sales quarter. I mean, we get even more granular, a bad hole is a bad sales call, whatever it may be. Bringing it back full circle now, we talked about hypnosis, this deep state of relaxation. Well, what are the two big benefits when we go there intentionally? One, every single one of us, every single one of you listening has that harsh inner critic that says, you're not good enough, you can't do it, why bother? So in that hypnotic state, we silence all of that noise and negativity. Number two, now you're able to connect directly with your subconscious. Your subconscious influences 95% of what you do every single day. It's home to your memories, your emotions, your beliefs, and your habits. So what we've kind of been alluding to throughout our conversation, athletically speaking, it's the same in entrepreneurship: performance anxiety, imposter syndrome, fear of failure, success, judgment, embarrassment. All of these are learned patterns of believing, feeling, and behaving. So through hypnosis, we can actually uncover when, why, and how you learn to have performance anxiety. You learn to fear success. And through that, we create an opportunity to now start unlearning those patterns. And the immediate benefit is a massive surplus in energy. Now, why is that important? because I have an imagination every single person listening understands what to do to achieve their goal. They're just not doing it. So when you know what to do to achieve your goal and you're not doing it, it's not a lack of information problem. It's a mindset problem. So now doing this deep work, you free up that energy to finally take action on doing what you know you need to be doing to reach that next level of success.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm literally sitting here thinking in my own mind, right? It's like, it's our limiting belief, right? I'm not the monkey mind that's telling you why logic, and putting a well executed business plan, writing it down, saying this is what I got to do. I got to make 50 great phone calls a day, and here's my list. And then there's something that you either don't get started down the road because it's like, I can't do it, or you start to achieve a little bit of success, say I'm not worthy, right? And an imposter syndrome and stuff like that. And that's an interesting, very interesting. So obviously, your journey started in the athletics, right? Went into weight loss, and then how did you get into the real estate sale? Like, how did you go? Which makes a logical jump to me as you explained it. But tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got there.
Yeah, so a lot of my nutrition coaching clients were business owners, entrepreneurs, C-level executives. So as I started, and I always had that mindset specific focus, nutrition was kind of secondary. But as I stepped fully into that and my coaching evolved, new tools, mainly hypnosis, came into the equation, it just started to have kind of a word of mouth domino effect. But real estate too, candidly, I've got a lot of good friends here in the greater Tampa area who are very involved, and word of mouth speaking opportunities just allowed me to really make these parallels from the other types of clients I was working with. Because at the end of the day, whether you are a restaurateur, a hotel owner, I have worked with full-time farmers. We are all wired the same to have these collections of patterns. I call them destructive mindset programs that are designed to keep us safe, but keep us stuck in patterns, just barely able to survive, where we're here wanting to thrive. And there's that huge incongruency there. So we've got to go in, unlearn and uncover these programs and replace them with programs that are aligned with who you need to become to achieve that next level of success.
So it's almost like our limiting mindset, right, is what holds us back from that greatness, right? Like, we know what to do to be great, right? We know the recipe. We can even have the ingredients, but something is our own limiting belief that I'm now using a meal analogy. Maybe I'm hungry, but
I'm right, like with it now. It's okay.
Yeah, right. Like, I'm very good at creating analogies, and halfway through, it doesn't make any sense. But so you're creating this meal, right? And you have the recipe, you have the cookbook that says what you have, and you have all the ingredients in your kitchen, but it's our own limiting belief that we're not, Thomas Keller or a Michelin star restaurant person that says, I can't do this. I can't be good. I can't, right? And that's what holds us back. And you basically help us unlock the limiting belief, right? That you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to run with your analogy because I like it. It's essentially, it's having the perfect recipe, buying all the ingredients, and being afraid to turn the oven on. Yeah. You know what to do. You're incredibly prepared, but you can't even get started. Or, you use that with I'm going to make 50 calls to these high quality leads every day. You've got the perfect blueprint and you don't call anybody. Or maybe you call 10 people. It just doesn't feel good. So what's happening here is every single one of us has 4 core beliefs. We have beliefs about ourselves, beliefs about others, belief about life in general. Is it fair? Is it unfair? And kind of the 4th belief that I've added in is we all have our own unique belief about money. Is there enough? Yes or no? But bringing it back to what you were saying is beliefs about ourselves. Am I worthy? Am I deserving? Am I capable? If I have this perfectly curated recipe, I've bought all of the freshest, most nutrient-dense ingredients, and I've got this pristine cooking environment. What if I step into that kitchen and cook a phenomenal meal? Well, crap, now there's pressure, expectation to do it again. There's more attention. People want me to cook more for them. Oh man, that's scary because now there's an identity up here people are going to expect of you, but your self-worth and belief are so far down here. This incongruency leaves you to ultimately fall back to what you believe about yourself.
So how do you close that gap?
So we have to uncover what's the fear here? Is it fear of success, or in this case, fear of standing out, fear of failure, fear of judgment? And what we often find is all of these are learned behaviors from past experiences. A very common example I often uncover when working with my clients is there's been some type of presentation or oral report in elementary or middle school. You step up and maybe you're unprepared, you fumble your words, you've peed your pants as a 5-year-old in kindergarten, but there was such a traumatic experience for this young boy or little girl, we began to develop a pattern of thinking and behaving to protect ourselves from that ever happening again. So we'll use a common example to go off of that. If in 5th grade, you gave a presentation and you forgot your lines, or you just completely missed the mark and the class laughed at you, the teacher made a passive aggressive remark that just didn't feel good for that 9 or 10-year-old boy, you internalize that. That's a real threat to that 9 or 10-year-old boy or girl at that time. So again, a set of accompanying behaviors and beliefs begin to develop. I'm not good enough to speak in front of people. How does that translate years down the road? You play small, you're timid, you're shy, you develop performance anxiety. It's a fear of standing out. You don't think you're good enough, so you don't even try to go after these opportunities, even though you're incredibly capable.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
It's they say the number one fear of is public speaking, right?
Yeah,
it's that fear of embarrassment. Yeah. They say that some people, fear that more than death is the fear of embarrassment, fear of public speaking. And
crazy.
It is probably to that point, right? Like I think about, for me, for many may know, I did stand-up comedy for a while, and I do a lot of public speaking, but I make sure I'm uber prepared. Right. And I'm not a great public speaker when I'm not prepared. Right. And so I try to over prepare, I try to control the controllables as much as I can, maybe too much so sometimes. Right. And but I can see that, I always say that people that have a fear of public speaking, it's just because they're not prepared enough. But I can see why, you kind of unlock why we feel that way.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So a couple of takeaways for our audience, like if they want to get better, what do they do?
Reflection. I'll unpack that. So, I think it was Tony Robbins who said, knowledge is power. It can be if you take action on that knowledge, you act upon this awareness. So I use reflection through the lens of non-judgmental curiosity, courage, and vulnerability to look inward and kind of review. I mean, this is perfectly timed conversation for the time of year it is at the end of the year here. A couple questions I was asking myself this morning, I've been asking my clients, the easy framework I use, and this is really great after a round of golf or a poker session too, is what went well? What could have gone better? What did I learn? Even more, what do you need to start, stop, or continue doing to achieve your goals in the coming year? And if you're willing to be honest about your shortcomings, if you're willing to take ownership of some of the destructive patterns that have gotten you off track from doing what it is you need to be doing to achieve your goals, now you create clarity and crystallization of this newfound awareness. And if you're willing, it creates an opportunity to do different, to think different, to act different, to shift from a state of what I call unconscious reaction, these automated reactions, to a state of conscious response. The only difference, aside from the subtleties in my word choice, is a moment of pause, which empowers you to choose different to achieve different.
Love that.
That's awesome.
I think as a society today with phones and distractions and everything, I probably none of us spend enough time reflecting, especially on the small, meaningful things. Like I'm not an avid golfer, but obviously a high-level salesperson, like maybe building in some pause at the end of each call or at the end of each call session anyway, to ask yourself those types of questions could really change your practice and help you sharpen your skills to get better day to day.
Spot on. And to make it easier for the listeners, set an intention before every sales call, project, conversation. I want to show up blank, focused as a leader or whatever that is. And then the quick reflection after is, how did I do? You can grade yourself 0 to 10. You can say, use a couple adjectives, whatever it is, but that gives you kind of a 1-2 framework to make your reflection easier. That way you're not thinking like, well, what do I reflect on? Where do I start? You've got a little bit of an anchor there already.
Those who seek shall find, right? So if we start with that and kind of set the intention, that makes total sense. I love that, brother.
Yeah.
Dude, this is awesome chatting with you, Paul. Very simple things, but super complex things as well. Like as you unpack them, and I'm a person. I love I often refer to myself as a hillbilly, and I look for the simple truths in things. It's awesome just to think about the reflection and the intention and spending that time with yourself to really prepare and get out of what you want of life. So I think that's fantastic.
I thought that was really well said. I agree. And the challenge we all face is, unfortunately, simple is not the same as easy, if only.
Amen, brother.
And you mentioned too, it's the phones, it's the nonstop bombardment of consume me. But, I heard a quote once and I still can't to this day quite articulate where I heard it, but it's this: the voice of the subconscious mind is silence, which if we sit with ourselves in silence, solitude, and just be, we're all conditioned, especially as high performers, to do, go. But the magic is in the being. And it can be scary to tune into the being, the silence, the nothingness, because in some ways it's a surrender of control. And many of our superpowers here listening to this podcast are the control, the effort, the ambition, the tenacity. And it's like we surrender all that to just be, because sometimes that creates unknown, uncontrollables, or some harsh truths we might have to confront and accept about ourselves. Yet that is where the magic and the opportunity resides.
Actually, reminds me of a book that I finished. I talked about on our podcast a couple of times called The Untethered Soul.
Michael Singer, right?
Yeah. It was a book I read this year that really kind of taught me the difference between my mind and my conscious mind, right? And, all the things that go through your head, right? All those, whether it's limiting beliefs or whether it's, just triggers of past, right? That hit your mind. And if you can just learn that to observe those things, that they aren't you, right? They're just reflection of observations, right? The observations and or observations. I'm now missing the word, but like your opinion on opinions formed on observations, right? Which may or may not be correct, right? It's just your mind coming up with things. And if you can kind of separate that, and just be and observe and realize, it can really kind of unlock some of that power, right? You can be like, look, there's no need to be embarrassment is not a real thing. It's just, it's your interpretation of an observation. And who cares if you were, right? The world doesn't end, and so I thought that was, very good. So Paul, let me ask you this. So, first of all, I appreciate you coming on. I thought it was really cool that you reached out. What can we do to help you?
Well, hold on real quick. I got to give you another book recommendation that's going to blow your mind based on what you just shared. You've got to read The Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford.
The Dark Side of the Light Chasers?
Yeah, it's a crazy title, I know, but you mentioned kind of just the energy, the opinions, the parts of ourselves we see reflected in others. People triggering us is really just a reflection of things about ourselves we dislike or haven't accepted yet. And I look forward to you reaching out and telling me, whew, that was mind blowing, because that builds right off of that, of the Untethered Soul quite well.
Okay. Awesome. I've been looking for something to continue on that journey. So I appreciate that. So Paul, so obviously you coach, is that, tell us a little bit how we can help you, and if our listeners could get in touch with you if they want to learn more.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I do have a podcast myself, the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. You do not have to be a golfer to find value in it. I was joking before we went live. It's really a personal development podcast disguised as a golf mindset podcast, because just like entrepreneurship, golf is nothing more than a mirror of our own personal development journey. So that's a great place to just really learn, go deep with me. Otherwise, interest in coaching or anything else about me is at thegolfhypnotherapist.com.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome.
We will definitely take a listen to that. Thank you for joining us. And I look forward to, I'm definitely going to take that is on my reading list for the first quarter, is The Dark Side of the Light Chaser. So that sounds really exciting as well. So Paul, thank you so much. You've been awesome. Great guest. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, Rick, Adam, thank you so much for having me. Absolute blast.
It was our pleasure, brother. Thank you so much. And this was great. And looking forward to following back up with you.
Yeah, likewise.
Awesome. So I guess this podcast has ended. Thank you. Thank you for everyone for listening. The podcast has ended. Go in peace. Eric, take it away.
You've been listening to The Growth Mindset, hosted by Adam Crosley and Rick Riddle. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your colleagues. Stay tuned for more actionable insights to fuel your career success. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and do not necessarily reflect the official policies, positions, or opinions of Absolute Home Mortgage Corporation or Crown Home Mortgage. The content is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice or an official endorsement by either organization.